October 30th, 2024, a date engraved in our hearts, a date etched into our souls. 1 year ago today, we stood in long queues that snaked through Gaborene's dusty streets under the relentless sun, if you remember very well. And we voted, not just for a name on the ballot paper, but for a dream, for the umbrella for democratic change, for President Duma Boko, for a Botswana unshackled from 58 years of the same old shadows. Today, as the dust settles on that historic day, let's pause. Let us reflect, because change isn't a finish line. It's a marathon we've only begun. I am Uncle German, and welcome to this special solo reflection on the Court of Public Opinion, where we unpack the stories that shape our nation. It's been exactly 365 days since that earthquake at the polls, since we handed the keys to the UDC, and in the BDP's iron grip since independence. Voter turnout well over 80%, a roar from the people that echoed across Africa. President Duma Boko, the Harvard sharp lawyer with fire in his eyes, sworn in on November 1st as our 6th president. But a year in, are we soaring, stumbling, or somewhere in between? Today we'll journey through the highs, the hurdles, and the horizon ahead. Grab your coffee, let's dive in, because this isn't just history, it is our story. Now, cast your mind back to October 30, 2024. The air was thick with anticipation and a bit of that dry season heat that makes you question some of your life choices. But we showed up. Oh, yes, we did show up. Why? Because the cracks in the old foundation had become chasm. And picture this. Diamonds, our livelihood, tumbling in value. Debswana sales down 47% in the first half of that fateful year alone. Unemployment was hovering at around 24-25%, with young people, the youth, fighting for survival every day and knocking on doors that wouldn't open. Corruption scandals that made headlines feel like bad reruns every single day. Tenders vanishing into thin air. Nepotism so blatant it stung. And the drought, I remember that very well. It wasn't just patching the land, it was patching our hope. President Mokgweetsi Masisi's BDP, once the unshakable rock since Cesar Tsakama's days, had weathered too many storms without fixing the leaks. Enter the UDC. That umbrella wasn't just a coalition, it was a lifeline for us. Formed back in 2011-2012 from the ashes of a fractured opposition, the Botswana National Front, Botswana Movement for Democracy, BMD, and the Botswana People's Party. It grew into a force. By 2024, with President Boko at the helm, they promised us the moon. Jobs for the youth, a minimum living wage jumping from 1,500 to 4,000 pula. They promised pensions, that pensions will more than double to 1,800. A national health insurance scheme to make clinics feel like lifelines and not lotteries. Anti-corruption crackdown. Economic diversification, solar farms in the desert, cannabis for medicine, hemp for industry, and electoral reforms to make every vote count fairer. We bought in hard. The result? A seismic shift. UDC swept 36 seats out of 61. A super majority. How about the BDP? They crumbled to just 4, and they are called the Force for that. Botswana Congress Party snagged 15 to win the position of official opposition in Botswana. And General Khama's Botswana Patriotic Front won 5 seats. President Boko automatically became the president of Botswana. He took oath with the world watching. President Masisi considered gracefully a nod to our democratic bones. Africa held its breath. That night, Gaborone lit up, horns blaring, strangers hugging in the streets. I remember standing somewhere I won't mention. My phone was buzzing with messages from relatives, colleagues, friends from all over the country, all saying change is here. Feel it. It did feel electric. The atmosphere was simply electric. Like, we had cracked open a bottle of hope we had been saving for generations. But here's the cliffhanger. A year later, has that spark ignited the fire or flickered in the wind? Let's see what we've built and what we are yet to build. Fast forward 12 months to October 2025 today. President Boko himself called it this first year, learning and unlearning. I think he said that at the Global Expo. It's a humble admission that government isn't like campaigning. And oh boy, we have learned. Let's break it down. The wins that warm the heart, the stumbles, the grind that's testing our resolve. First, let's focus on the hits, the good news. And there are some beauties in this country that we have achieved in the last 12 months. Diplomacy I think, is top of all of them, and quite rightly so, because the president has been a globetrotter, and being a globetrotter because he is the first ever president of our country, from a party other than the BDP, like more than 5 decades of the same party. So basically, all they know is but on the Democratic Party. So now he has to be everywhere to engage with his peers in other countries. And also remember, he had engagements in Qatar for that 12 billion in investments. He has been to Oman. I don't know if I pronounced the name well. Yeah, Oman for trade ties. And also I know there's a possibility of us opening a mission there. And also has been to Belarus for mining partnerships, and many other countries of which we know what he went there for. And closer to home, he's renegotiating the DBS deal, pushing for more Botswana control over their diamonds. Botswana is advocating for Botswana to have more control over their diamonds. And domestically, the 2025-2026 budget from Vice President Ndaba Gaolate was a promise keeper in parts. Old age pensions were increased from 830 pula to 1,400. Not the full 1,800 pledged by the ruling party, but it's a step that means our elders will eat with dignity. We have seen the introduction of indigenous languages at BTV. I actually enjoy watching the Sesara News, quite frankly. And then Bono housing scheme is also taking shape, though with some controversies surrounding the whole program. And generally, I think people these days feel safer around the police than back in the day. We don't hear much about police harassment and brutality. In fact, it's the people who have been beating up the police, which is quite unfortunate and needs to stop. The medical cannabis and industrial hemp pilots are underway, which have the potential to create jobs in a sector that could bloom like our acacias in the rain. But let's not sugarcoat the misses. They are fueling the whispers. Economic diversification? Not really. It's been slower than a tortoise in the heat. Unemployment dipped to 22%, but you still knock on doors that won't open. The minimum living wage, negotiations between government and unions have stalled. And remember, unions are the bedrock of the UDC. And then there's the health crisis. In August, President Boko declared a state of public health emergency for 21 days over medicine shortages amid budget shortfalls and slashed US aid. Hospitals started rationing basics, even asking for donations from the public. That is not the quality health care for all that Botswana voted for. Not at all. And critics, who include even some old BNF comrades and stalwarts, they say that the UDC is flirting with BDP ghosts, could fuel internal rifts. And also the BPF that bolted out of coalition talks pre-elections, they are now eyeing Kalahari South by elections, a move that could further destabilize the coalition government. But we stand to see what will happen this coming weekend as the BPF holds its Congress in Sorowe, because there are two lobby lists. There's one that is pro UDC, and there's another one that is anti-UDC. So we'll see what will happen if the pro UDC lobby wins, whether they will recall their candidate from Kalahari South by election. It is the grind that defines us. President Boko's third way, neither blind capitalism nor socialism, is wrestling with reality. We have unlearned complacency, learned coalition kings, not fireworks but foundations. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. I don't like the quote though, but neither is the new Botswana. The new Botswana will not be built in a year or even 5 years, but we should see the movement towards that. We should see the energy being channeled towards the new Botswana. And we've got the majority in parliament. 36 seats is more than enough to push reforms. But it takes us, the voters, holding the line. But wait, here's the twist that keeps me awake at night. The real power wasn't in those 36 seats. It was in us. The more than 80% turnout. It wasn't luck. It was fury turned to fuel. We voted out a giant, not with guns, but with markers. And in this year, we have revealed something profound. Botswana's democracy isn't fragile. It's fierce. President Boko's win wasn't just anti-BDP. It was pro-people. A reminder that change demands vigilance. The BDP still got 30% of the popular vote. They are licking wounds, but not dead. The BCP is nipping at the heels as opposition. If we slack, the umbrella phrase, the reveal, this anniversary isn't a pat on the back, it's a call to arms. We have changed the guard, now let's guard the change. So as we mark this milestone, let's recap the takeaways. 1, celebrate the sparks. The UDC is planting seeds. 2, own the stumbles. Wage delays, medical shortages, they are growing pains, but we demand fixes as the voters. 3, seize the power. You made this happen. Speak up. Hold leaders accountable. If this reflection lit a fire in you, smash that subscribe button, because next week we are unpacking more fire conversations. Drop a comment. What's your 1-year hope for Botswana like? Share this with a friend who voted that day and let us keep the conversation alive. Thank you for watching. This is Uncle German signing off. Change is here, but it's ours to nurture.